Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. Around him, dozens of ships moved in perfect formation. Human ships, alien ships, all working together like they had done for 37 years. The joint military exercise was going well. Too well, he thought, but pushed the feeling away. "Admiral, the Altarian fleet is moving into position," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Park Jin-woo. The young man's voice carried excitement. Joint exercises with their alien allies always thrilled the younger crew members. Kim nodded, his weathered face showing years of space command. At 55, he had spent most of his adult life working with the coalition forces. The Altarians were tall, blue-skinned beings with 4 arms. They moved their ships with grace that humans admired. The Centauri were smaller, covered in gray fur, but their technology was impressive. The Vegans looked almost human, except for their silver eyes and pale skin. "Signal from the Centauri command ship," called out another officer. "They're ready to begin the combat simulation." Kim picked up his communicator. "All Terran ships, this is Admiral Kim. Begin exercise protocol 7. Remember, this is practice, but treat it like the real thing." The exercise was meant to test how well the different species could work together during a crisis. They had done this dozens of times before. Human ships would take the lead in direct combat, while alien ships provided support with their special abilities. The Altarians had powerful shields, the Centauri had advanced sensors, and the Vegans had weapons that could hit targets from very far away. On the planet below, Dr. Park So-min watched the exercise from the Coalition headquarters. She was the head of the Terran Diplomatic Corps, responsible for keeping peace between humans and the other species. The headquarters was a massive building made of crystal and metal, representing unity between all coalition members. "The exercise looks good," said her assistant, a young woman named Lee Hyrin. "All ships are working together perfectly." Dr. Park smiled, but something felt wrong. In her 20 years as a diplomat, she had learned to trust her feelings. The alien representatives seemed tense today. During the morning briefing, they had avoided looking at the human delegates directly. Small things, but important. "Hi, Erin, can you check the communication logs from yesterday? I want to see if there were any unusual messages between the alien commands." Captain Lee Dong-woo commanded the TCS Incheon, one of the newest ships in the Terran fleet. His crew was young but well-trained. They had been part of the coalition forces for 3 years, and this was their first major exercise. "Captain, we're getting some strange readings," reported his sensor officer, Ensign Kim Mi-young. "The alien ships are changing their weapon power levels." "That's normal for an exercise," Lee replied, but he moved closer to look at the readings. "Wait, those power levels are too high for practice. Why would they need full combat power for a simulation?" Before anyone could answer, alarms started ringing throughout the ship. The tactical display showed something impossible. The alien ships had turned their weapons toward the human vessels. "Captain," shouted his weapons officer, "the Altarian ships are targeting us. This isn't part of the exercise." Lee's training kicked in immediately. "All hands, battle stations. Raise shields, prepare for combat." But it was too late. The first shots came from the Centauri ships. Bright beams of energy struck 3 human destroyers before they could react. The ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light and fire. "Admiral." Kim watched in horror as his fleet was attacked by their supposed allies. "All ships, evasive action, return fire, this is not a drill." The battle was brutal and one-sided. The human ships had lowered their shields for the exercise. They were not prepared for real combat. One by one, Terran vessels were destroyed by their former allies. "Sir, we're getting reports from all systems," Lieutenant Park said, his voice shaking. "The same thing is happening everywhere. All Terran forces are under attack by coalition ships." Kim felt cold anger fill his chest. 37 years of partnership, 37 years of trust, and this was how it ended. "Signal all surviving ships. Emergency jump to rally point 7. We need to warn Earth." Captain Lee's ship was badly damaged, but still flying. Half his crew was dead, and fires burned on 3 decks. Through the smoke and chaos, he could see the Altarian ships moving toward the human colony on New Sol. "Captain, they're targeting the colony." reported Kim Mi-young, tears streaming down her face. 10 million people live there. Lee watched helplessly as the alien ships began bombing the planet. Cities that had taken decades to build were destroyed in minutes. The schools where human and alien children had learned together became craters. The hospitals where human doctors had saved alien lives were turned to ash. Dr. Park So-min was in the Coalition Council chamber when the news arrived. The alien representative sat calmly as reports came in about the attacks. She realized with growing horror that they had planned this. "You knew," she said, standing up slowly. "All of you knew this would happen." The Altarian ambassador, someone she had considered a friend for 15 years, looked at her with cold eyes. "Humans have served their purpose. Your technology helped us reach new worlds. Your military helped us defeat our enemies. But now you are no longer needed. We trusted you," Park whispered. "That was your mistake," replied the Centauri representative. "Humans are too dangerous to be left alive. You learn too quickly, adapt too well and ask too many questions. The galaxy will be safer without your species." Guards entered the chamber. Dr. Park knew she would not leave this room alive, but she had to try to warn Earth. She activated her emergency communicator, hoping the signal would reach someone. Captain Lee's damaged ship finally escaped the battle zone. Of the 200 Terran ships that had been in the exercise, only 24 survived. He recorded a message and sent it toward Earth with all the power his ship could manage. "Earth Command, this is Captain Lee Dong-woo of the TCS Incheon. The Coalition has betrayed us. All Terran forces have been attacked without warning. Repeat, the Coalition has betrayed us. New Sol Colony has been destroyed. Prepare for war." As his ship limped toward deep space, Lee looked back at the system where he had lost so many friends. The alien ships were already moving toward human space, confident that they had eliminated the threat. But they had made one critical mistake. They assumed that what they saw was all that humanity had to offer. They thought the ships in the Coalition fleet were Earth's entire military force. They were about to learn how wrong they were. On Earth, in a secret facility hidden beyond Neptune, alarms began to sound. President Han Min-seok received Captain Lee's message and immediately activated Protocol 7. The message was simple, but its meaning would shake the galaxy. Wake up the fleet. The emergency meeting began 30 minutes after Captain Lee's message reached Earth. President Han Min-seok sat at the head of a long table in the most secure room on the planet. Around him were the 12 most powerful people in human space, but only 3 of them knew what was about to happen. "How many of our people survived?" asked Defense Minister Ko Jin-soo, his face pale with shock. "Less than 12% of our coalition forces," replied Fleet Admiral Choi In-woo. "Maybe 8,000 personnel out of 70,000. The aliens planned this perfectly." General Song Hai-won slammed her fist on the table. 37 years of friendship and they murdered our people like animals. We should have seen this coming. President Han raised his hand for silence. "Actually, we did see this coming. Admiral Choi, please explain Protocol 7. Admiral Choi stood up, his gray uniform bearing the marks of 40 years of service. "Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level. For the past 30 years, while we have been working with the Coalition, we have also been preparing for this day." He activated a holographic display that showed the solar system. "We never fully trusted our alien allies. Humans learned long ago that trust must be earned and verified. So while we shared technology and resources with the Coalition, we kept our best innovations secret." The display zoomed in on the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Hidden among the rocks were structures that looked like nothing more than mining stations. "The Terra Nova shipyards," Choi continued, "completely hidden from Coalition sensors. For 30 years we have been building ships there. Not just a few ships, 12,000 ships." The room fell silent. Even those who had suspected something was happening had never imagined anything this large. Director Nam Hee-jin of the shipyards appeared on screen from her command center. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who had spent her entire career building humanity's secret defense. "Mr. President, all ships are ready for deployment," she reported. "We have been waiting for this day, though we hoped it would never come." Tell them about the ships, President Han said. Nam's image was replaced by technical displays showing sleek, powerful vessels. These are not like the ships we gave to the Coalition. Every human innovation for the past 3 decades went into these designs. Zero-point energy cores that provide unlimited power, adaptive armor that can resist any known weapon, quantum computers that can think faster than biological minds. She paused, letting the information sink in. The aliens think they know human technology because of what we shared with them. They have seen perhaps 10% of what we can actually do. Defense Minister Ko looked amazed. How did we hide something this massive? Simple, replied Admiral Choi. We told everyone that the asteroid belt operations were mining facilities, which they were in part. We mined resources to build the ships, but we also used holographic generators and sensor scramblers to hide the shipyards. To any observer, including Coalition scouts, it looked like normal asteroid mining. President. Han stood up. The aliens made one critical error. They assumed that because humans cooperate, we are weak. They confused our choice to work together with an inability to defend ourselves. Today, they learn the difference. On the edge of Coalition, Space Commander Zhang Quri led a team of Terran Special Operations soldiers on a rescue mission. Her ship was one of the few that had escaped the betrayal, and now she was trying to save human civilians trapped on Coalition worlds. Remember, we're here to save lives, not start fights, she told her team as they prepared to land on the planet, Kepler Prime. But if anyone tries to stop us from protecting our people, show them why humans are feared in close combat. The team moved through the colony with deadly efficiency. Human civilians had been rounded up by Coalition forces and were being held in camps. The aliens planned to use them as slaves or kill them, depending on their usefulness. Zhang's team struck, fast and hard. They disabled alien guards with weapons that fired stunning energy pulses, then led groups of civilians to hidden escape ships. In 12 hours, they rescued 3,000 people from 6 different camps. Commander, we're getting reports from other teams, reported Sergeant Park Woo-hyun. Similar rescues are happening throughout Coalition space. Whoever organized this operation planned it perfectly. Zhang smiled grimly. The aliens think they caught us by surprise. They don't realize that humans always have backup plans for our backup plans. Back on Earth, Dr. Shin Bora was explaining humanity's advantages to the War Council. As the government's chief expert on alien behavior, she had studied the Coalition species for 20 years. The aliens made their decision based on incomplete information, she said, displaying charts and graphs. They see humans as a threat because we adapt quickly and learn from everyone we meet. What they don't understand is that this same ability made us better at preparing for betrayal. She changed the display to show comparative military strengths. Each Coalition species has advantages in specific areas. Altarians are strong, Centauri are smart, Vegans are precise. But humans are the only species that excels at everything. We took their best ideas and improved them. What about their numbers? Asked General Song. They have more ships than our public fleet. True, but numbers mean nothing if your enemy is always one step ahead, Dr. Shin replied. Humans have been studying Coalition tactics for 37 years. We know how they think, how they fight, and most importantly, how they can be defeated. President Han activated his personal communicator. Admiral Choi, you may begin Operation Reckoning. In the asteroid belt, Director Nam Hae-jin watched as 12,000 ships powered up for the first time. The shipyard had been her life's work, and now she would see if that work had been worth it. All ships, this is Control, she announced. You are no longer hidden. Show the galaxy what humanity builds when we prepare for war. The ships were beautiful and terrifying, sleek destroyers that could move faster than anything the Coalition had ever seen. Massive battleships armed with weapons that could crack planets. Carriers filled with fighters that used human creativity and alien technology combined. But the most impressive ships were the dreadnoughts. 12 massive vessels, each one capable of fighting an entire fleet. They had been designed using quantum physics that the Coalition couldn't understand and built with materials that shouldn't exist. As the fleet formed up for departure, Captain Baek Soo-jin took command of the experimental stealth ship TCS Busan. Her mission was to scout ahead and gather intelligence on coalition positions. Navigation, set course for the Vega system, she ordered. Let's see what our former allies are doing with their victory. The Busan moved through space like a ghost. Its stealth systems made it invisible to every type of sensor the coalition used. Bake and her crew watched as alien fleets celebrated their successful betrayal. "Captain, they're dividing up human territory like a prize," reported her intelligence officer, Lieutenant Yu Minho. "The Altarians want our water worlds. The Centauri claim our mining colonies, and the Vegans are taking our research stations." Beck felt cold anger in her chest. "They're celebrating too early. Send a message to Admiral Choi. Tell him the aliens have positioned their fleets exactly where our war games predicted they would." The message reached Earth just as the main fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace. Admiral Choi read it and smiled for the first time since the betrayal began. "You see," he told his staff, "humans don't just prepare for war. We prepare to win wars. The aliens think they have defeated us, but they have simply revealed their true positions." He activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Choi. For 37 years we trusted and we were betrayed. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you mistake human kindness for human weakness." The 12,000 ships disappeared into hyperspace, leaving only empty space where the secret fleet had waited. They were heading toward coalition space, carrying with them the full force of human anger and the promise of justice. The aliens had started this war by betraying trust and murdering innocents, but humans would finish it by proving that some crimes can never be forgiven and some enemies can never be allowed to win. Dr. Shinbora stood before the War Council, her presentation ready to explain why humanity had always been the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The room was filled with Earth's military leaders, all waiting to understand how their species had gained such an advantage. "The coalition made a fundamental mistake," she began, activating a display that showed human settlements across dozens of worlds. "They saw our cooperation as weakness, but cooperation is actually our greatest strength." General Ko Sung-ho, head of the Terran Marine Corps, leaned forward. "Explain what you mean, Doctor." "Every other species in the galaxy specializes," Shin continued. "Altarians are warriors, evolved for their high-gravity world. Centauri are thinkers, developed on a planet where intelligence meant survival. Vegans are precise, coming from a world where small mistakes meant death." She changed the display to show human evolution. "But humans evolved on a world that had everything. We needed strength to hunt large animals, intelligence to solve problems, precision to use tools, and cooperation to survive in groups. We became the only species that could do everything well." Admiral Choi nodded. "That's why our hidden fleet is so advanced. We didn't just copy alien technology. We improved it by combining their best ideas with our own innovations." "Exactly," Shin replied. "For 37 years, every joint training exercise, every shared technology project, every diplomatic meeting was actually a learning opportunity. We studied how they think, how they fight, and how they could be defeated." Captain Baek Soo-jin was proving this point at that very moment. Her stealth ship TCS Busan moved through coalition space like a shadow, observing enemy positions. What she found made her smile with cold satisfaction. "Lieutenant Yu, are you recording this?" she asked her intelligence officer. "Yes, Captain. The coalition fleets are doing exactly what Dr. Shin predicted they would do." On the viewing screen, they could see Altarian ships fighting Centauri vessels over the ruins of a human mining station. The aliens were already turning on each other, fighting over the resources they had stolen. "They never learned to truly cooperate," Beck observed. "They formed an alliance of convenience, not friendship. Now that they don't have humanity to unite against, they're showing their true nature." Her communications officer, Ensign Kim Sora, looked up from her station. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from one of the coalition worlds. It's not from the government, it's from civilian groups." The message that came through was from Ambassador Yoon Ji-hee, who had survived the betrayal by going underground. She had spent weeks organizing resistance movements among alien civilians, who were horrified by their government's actions. "This is Ambassador Yoon to any Terran forces receiving this message," the transmission said. "Many coalition civilians oppose the betrayal. They are helping to hide human survivors and gather intelligence on military positions. The resistance is growing. Captain Bayek felt a spark of hope. Send a response, but keep it short and encrypted. Tell the ambassador that help is coming, and ask for detailed information about Coalition fleet positions. Back on Earth, General Ko was preparing the Terran Marines for ground operations. His soldiers were different from the Space Navy crews. They had trained for combat on dozens of different worlds, adapting to every environment imaginable. Listen up, he told his assembled commanders. The aliens think they understand human warfare because they've seen our spaceships fight. They don't know anything about how we fight on the ground. The display showed training footage of human Marines operating in conditions that would kill most alien species. Desert worlds where the heat would cook Centauri in their fur. Ice worlds where Altarians would freeze despite their thick skin. High radiation environments where vegans couldn't survive. Humans spread across the galaxy because we can live anywhere, Ko continued. We can fight anywhere too. Every world the Coalition controls we can take back. Major Lim Si-young, one of Ko's best officers, raised her hand. What about their superior numbers, sir? Ko smiled grimly. Numbers don't matter when you're enemy. Can't predict what you'll do next. Humans are the only species that fights differently every time. We adapt our tactics based on what we learn about our enemies. Meanwhile, Intelligence Officer Quan Min Ho was working on a different kind of warfare. His job was to attack Coalition morale and turn their own populations against them. The aliens made this easy for us, he explained to his team. They betrayed beings who had called them friends. Even their own people find that disgusting. His team had been broadcasting the truth about the betrayal to every Coalition world. They showed recordings of human children playing with alien children, human doctors saving alien lives, human teachers working with alien students. Then they showed what the Coalition governments had done to those same humans. The effect is exactly what we hoped, reported his assistant Lieutenant Park Do-yoon. Massive protests on 12 Coalition worlds. Some alien military units are refusing orders to attack human civilians. Quan nodded with satisfaction. Humans understand something the Coalition leadership doesn't. Real strength comes from doing what's right, not just what's powerful. The 12,000-ship Terran fleet was now only hours away from Coalition space. Admiral Choi stood on the bridge of his flagship, the TCS Seoul, watching the countdown to arrival. Admiral, we're receiving final intelligence reports from Captain Bayek's reconnaissance mission, reported his communications officer. The tactical display updated to show Coalition fleet positions. Just as predicted, the alien forces were scattered and disorganized. Some were fighting each other over territory, others were suppressing rebellion on their own worlds. They've made every mistake in the book, observed Commander Park Woo-jin, captain of the Seoul. They assumed victory and stopped working together. Admiral Choi activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Choi. In 30 minutes we will arrive in Coalition space. Our mission is not conquest or revenge, our mission is justice. He paused, looking at the faces of his crew. Many had lost friends and family in the betrayal. All of them were angry, but they were also disciplined. The aliens betrayed us because they feared what humanity might become, he continued. Today, we show them exactly what they should have feared. Not human cruelty, but human justice. Not human hatred, but human determination. Dr. Shin Bo-ra was monitoring the approach from Earth, analyzing Coalition responses to the news that a massive human fleet was approaching. They're panicking, she reported to President Han. Their communications are full of confusion and fear. They never planned for the possibility that humans had hidden military assets. President Han looked at the tactical display with satisfaction. They assumed they knew everything about us. That was their fatal mistake. Sir, there's something else, Shin added. The Coalition species are starting to blame each other for the betrayal failing. The Altarians say the Centauri didn't destroy enough human ships. The Centauri claim the Vegans missed important targets. They're falling apart. As the human fleet prepared to drop out of hyperspace, Ambassador Yoon's resistance network sent one final message. Alien civilians on dozens of worlds were ready to help human forces distinguish between those who supported the betrayal and those who opposed it. Captain. Bayek's stealth ship was the first to arrive, emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the Vega system. What she saw confirmed everything the humans had hoped for. Captain, the Coalition fleets are completely out of position, reported Lieutenant Yu. They're scattered across 7 systems, fighting each other as much as preparing for us. Bayek opened a communication channel to Admiral Choi. Sir, the enemy is exactly where we want them, divided, confused, and totally unprepared for what's coming. The Admiral's response was calm and confident. Excellent work, Captain. All ships prepare for arrival. It's time to show the galaxy what happens when you betray Earth. Across Coalition space, alien leaders finally realized the scope of their mistake. They had betrayed the one species that never forgot a friend or forgave an enemy. They had awakened humanity's true nature, and now they would face the consequences. The 12,000 ships were about to arrive, carrying with them the full force of human determination, and the promise that betrayal would never go unpunished. The moment the human fleet appeared on Coalition sensors, panic spread across 7 star systems. 12,000 ships materialized from hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapons powered, but not yet firing. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the TCS Incheon, the same ship that had been badly damaged during the betrayal. He had been rescued from a Coalition prison planet by Commander Jang Kyuri's special forces, and now he was back where he belonged, commanding ships in battle. All Coalition forces, this is Admiral Kim Tae-ho of the Terran fleet, he broadcast on all frequencies. You have 30 minutes to power down your weapons and surrender. Any ship that fires on human forces will be destroyed. The response from the Altarian fleet commander was immediate and arrogant. Human, you are outnumbered 3-1. Surrender now and we might allow some of your people to live as slaves. Kim looked at his tactical officer, Lieutenant Park Jin-woo, the same young man who had served with him during the betrayal. Park was no longer excited about working with aliens. His face was hard with anger and determination. Sir, should we show them what our ships can do? Park asked. Not yet, Kim replied. First, let's show them what they've done. President Han Min-seok's voice came through every communication system in Coalition space. His message was broadcast to military commanders and civilian populations alike. People of the Coalition, the president began. Your leaders told you that humans were dangerous and needed to be destroyed. Let me show you what they really destroyed. The broadcast showed recordings from before the betrayal. Human children learning alongside alien children. Human doctors working day and night to save alien lives during a plague outbreak on Centauri Prime. Human engineers helping rebuild vegan cities after a natural disaster. These were your friends, President Han continued. These were the people your governments murdered. Humans who had given their lives to protect your worlds, killed because your leaders feared our potential. The images changed to show the aftermath of the betrayal. The burning ruins of New Sol Colony. The wreckage of human ships destroyed by surprise attacks. The bodies of human civilians killed while trying to evacuate. Your leaders told you this was necessary, the president said. Judge for yourselves. Whether murdering children and betraying trust was the act of heroes or cowards, Commander Park Woo-jin, captain of the massive dreadnought TCS Seoul, watched as Coalition fleets tried to organize a response to the human arrival. His ship alone was larger than most Coalition vessels, and it carried weapons that could destroy a planet. Captain, the Altarian battle group is moving to attack position, reported his weapons officer, Lieutenant Kim Hye-jin. Let them come, Park replied calmly. Charge the electromagnetic cannons, but set them to non-lethal power. We're going to give them a demonstration. The Altarian ships opened fire first, sending dozens of energy blasts toward the human dreadnought. The attack struck the Soul's shields and simply disappeared, absorbed by defensive systems beyond anything the aliens had ever seen. Our turn, Park said quietly. Fire. The Soul's electromagnetic cannons sent invisible pulses of energy toward the Altarian fleet. The alien ships didn't explode or burn. Instead, every electronic system on every ship simply stopped working. Engines shut down, weapons powered off, life support switched to emergency backup. "This is Captain Park to the Altarian fleet," he broadcast. "Your ships are disabled, but your crews are alive. We could have killed all of you in the first shot. Remember that." Similar scenes played out across the 7 systems. Human ships demonstrated their overwhelming technological superiority without causing unnecessary deaths. Coalition fleets found themselves helpless against weapons they couldn't understand and defenses they couldn't penetrate. Major Lim Si-young led the first boarding operations against Coalition command ships. Her Marines moved through enemy vessels with precision that amazed even the humans watching. "Remember, our mission is to capture war criminals, not to kill everyone we see," she told her team as they prepared to board the Centauri command vessel. These ships have crews who might have opposed the betrayal. The boarding action was swift and surgical. Human Marines used non-lethal weapons to subdue resistance, then moved directly to the command centers. They captured senior officers who had ordered the betrayal while protecting junior crew members who had simply followed orders. "Major, we've secured the bridge," reported Sergeant Kim Dae-ho. "The Centauri commander is asking to speak with you." The Centauri commander was a gray-furred being named Zektar, who had personally ordered the destruction of 3 human colonies. When Lim entered the bridge, he tried to justify his actions. "The humans were a threat to galactic peace," he said. "We did what was necessary." Lim looked at him with cold eyes. "You murdered children who called you friend. There is no justification for that." Intelligence Officer Kwon Min-ho was coordinating psychological warfare operations from his command ship. His team had spent months preparing for this moment, and now they were seeing the results. "Sir, we're getting reports from across Coalition space," announced his assistant, Lieutenant Park Do-yoon. "Massive civilian protests on 17 worlds. Some alien military units are refusing to fight against humans." The broadcasts of the betrayal's aftermath had done exactly what Kwon had hoped. Coalition civilians were horrified to learn what their governments had done to their human friends and allies. "The Vegan military commander on Kepler 7 just surrendered his entire fleet," reported another officer. "He says his crews won't fight against people who saved his daughter's life last year." Kwon smiled with grim satisfaction. Humans understand, something that the Coalition leadership never learned. Real victory comes from being right, not just being strong. Fleet Admiral Choi In-woo watched the developing situation from his command ship. The human fleet had been in Coalition space for 6 hours, and already the alien resistance was collapsing. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender offers from Coalition fleets in 4 systems," reported his communications officer. "They're asking for terms." Choi considered the situation carefully. Humanity had the power to destroy the Coalition completely, but that wasn't what Earth wanted. Justice required punishment for the guilty and protection for the innocent. "Send them our terms," he decided. "Complete surrender of all military forces. War crimes trials for anyone who ordered or participated in the betrayal. Reparations for the destruction of human colonies and ships, and fundamental changes to prevent this from ever happening again." The Coalition response came quickly. They tried to negotiate, offering partial reparations and limited trials. Choi's reply was immediate and final. "There will be no negotiation. You betrayed friends and murdered innocents. Justice is not something you bargain for." Captain Baek Soo-jin's stealth ship had been monitoring Coalition communications throughout the battle. What she discovered gave the humans an even greater advantage. "Admiral, the Coalition leadership is falling apart," she reported to Choi. "The species are blaming each other for the failure of the betrayal. The Altarians want to keep fighting, but the Centauri are ready to surrender completely." "What about the Vegans?" Choi asked. "They're trying to negotiate a separate peace. They claim they were forced into the betrayal by the other species." Choi felt a moment of satisfaction. Divide and conquer. They used that strategy against us for decades. Now they're doing it to themselves. As the hours passed, more Coalition fleets surrendered rather than face the human war machine. The aliens had expected to fight desperate refugees with inferior weapons. Instead, they faced the most advanced military force in galactic history, commanded by officers who had spent decades studying Coalition weaknesses. Admiral Kim received a message from Earth that made him smile for the first time since the betrayal began. Captain Lee Dongwu, the man whose warning had saved Earth, was being promoted to admiral and given command of the new peacekeeping fleet. The survivors of the betrayal will lead the new galaxy, Kim announced to his crew. We'll make sure this never happens again. By the end of the day, coalition resistance had collapsed in 6 of the 7 systems. Only the Altarian home fleet continued to fight, refusing to admit defeat even when faced with impossible odds. Admiral Choi gave them one final chance. Altarian fleet, you have fought bravely but uselessly. Surrender now and your crews will be treated with honor. The Altarian response was to launch a desperate attack on the human flagship. It was their last mistake. The TCS Sol's main weapons fired once. The Altarian flagship, the pride of their fleet for 200 years, simply ceased to exist. The remaining ships surrendered immediately. All coalition forces, this is Admiral Choi, he broadcast across the 7 systems. The war is over. Your leader's betrayal has failed. Now we will show you what justice looks like. The 12,000 ships had proven their point without conquering or destroying. They had shown that humanity was not a species to be betrayed and forgotten. They were a species that remembered their friends and never forgave their enemies. The real work was just beginning. 6 months after the coalition's surrender, the galaxy looked very different. Judge-Prosecutor Lee Yunji sat in the massive courtroom on the neutral world of Haven Station, watching as the last of the war criminals received their sentences. Trials had been broadcast across every coalition world, showing alien populations exactly what their leaders had done. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Video recordings of the betrayal, testimony from survivors, and documentation of the planned genocide of humanity. Zektar of the Centauri Union, Judge Lee announced, you are found guilty of ordering the murder of civilian populations, the betrayal of treaty obligations and crimes against sentient beings. You are sentenced to life imprisonment. The gray-furred alien showed no emotion as security officers led him away. He had tried to claim he was following orders, but the evidence showed he had been one of the betrayal's main planners. In the gallery, Dr. Park So-min watched with mixed feelings. She had spent her career believing in cooperation between species, and the betrayal had nearly broken her faith in that possibility. But the trials were showing that justice was possible, even across species lines. The guilty are being punished, she told her assistant Lee Hai-rin, who had also survived the betrayal. But more importantly, the innocent are being protected. Not all coalition leaders were criminals. Those who had opposed the betrayal or tried to protect human civilians received pardons and positions in the new galactic government. Those who had simply followed orders were given community service assignments, helping to rebuild what had been destroyed. Colonial Administrator Song Ji-ho was overseeing the reconstruction of New Seoul, the human colony that had been destroyed, in the first moments of the betrayal. But this time, the rebuilding was different. The new defensive grid is complete, reported his chief engineer, Captain Nam Ho-seok. No fleet will ever be able to surprise attack this world again. The reconstruction wasn't just about building new cities. It was about creating a galaxy where betrayal would be impossible. Early warning networks connected every inhabited world. Defense stations watched every major trade route. Most importantly, mixed crews of humans and trustworthy aliens operated all critical systems. We're not just rebuilding what was destroyed, Song explained to a group of visiting diplomats. We're building something better. A galaxy where trust is earned and verified. Dr. Park So-min had been chosen as Earth's new foreign minister, responsible for creating the treaties that would govern the new galactic order. Her office was filled with representatives from dozens of species, including many former coalition members who wanted to prove their loyalty to the new system. The old coalition was based on mutual benefit, she explained to the assembly. Species worked together when it helped them and betrayed each other when it didn't. The new galactic accords are based on justice and accountability. The new system was simple but effective. Species that demonstrated peaceful intentions and respect for sentient rights earned full membership and protection. Those with histories of aggression faced monitoring and restrictions until they proved they could be trusted. But what about species that refused to accept the new order? Asked Ambassador Yoon Ji-hai, who now served as the Galactic Reconciliation. Commissioner Dr. Park's answer was firm. They will find themselves isolated and defended against. The days when the strong could prey on the weak are over. Captain Oh Hyun-woo commanded the TCS Justice, flagship of the new Terran peacekeeping fleet. His ships patrolled the galaxy, ensuring that the strong could not oppress the weak and that treaties were honored by all sides. Captain, we're receiving a distress call from the Kepler system, reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Seo Ju-won. A group of former coalition hardliners is threatening a civilian transport. Set course for Kepler. Oh ordered. Full speed. Send a message to the aggressors that they have 10 minutes to withdraw before we arrive. The response came back quickly. The hardliners claimed they didn't recognize human authority and would destroy the transport rather than submit to alien rule. They still don't understand, observed O's executive officer, Commander Yu Ji-min. We're not ruling anyone. We're protecting everyone. The Justice arrived at Kepler just as the hardliners opened fire on the civilian ship. O's response was swift and precise. His ship's weapons disabled the attackers without destroying them, then rescued the civilians. This is Captain O to the attacking vessels, he broadcast. You are under arrest for violating the Galactic Accords. Your crews will be treated fairly, but your actions will have consequences. The incident was typical of the new galaxy. Problems were solved quickly and justly, with force used only when necessary and only to the extent required. Back on Earth, President Han Min-seok was meeting with his advisors about the galaxy's future. The hidden fleet that had won the war was now openly patrolling space, making sure that peace was maintained through strength. The transformation is ahead of schedule, reported Fleet Admiral Choi In-woo. Former coalition worlds are requesting to join the new system faster than we can process applications. What about resistance? Asked the president. Minimal, replied Intelligence Director Kwon Min-ho. Most species learned their lesson from the coalition's defeat. They understand that cooperation with humans is much more pleasant than opposition. The success wasn't just military. Human technology, no longer hidden, was transforming life across the galaxy. Medical advances saved lives on dozens of worlds. Engineering innovations made space travel safer and faster. Agricultural techniques ended hunger on planets that had struggled for generations. The aliens betrayed us because they feared what humanity might become, observed Dr. Shin Bora. Now they're seeing what we actually became. Protectors, healers, builders. Everything they should have hoped for. On New Seoul, now rebuilt and thriving, Ambassador Yoon Ji-hee was giving a speech at the memorial for those who had died in the betrayal. The memorial was attended by thousands of beings from dozens of species, including many former coalition members who had come to pay their respects. The coalition thought humanity's mercy was weakness, she said, looking out at the mixed crowd. They discovered it was strength. They thought our cooperation was naivety. They learned it was wisdom. They believed betraying us would eliminate a competitor. Instead, they created their judge. In the crowd, former enemies stood alongside human survivors, united in their determination to build a better galaxy. Altarian children played with human children under the watchful eyes of parents who had once been soldiers on opposite sides. The memorial itself showed the transformation that had taken place. Instead of a monument to hatred and revenge, it was a celebration of renewal and hope. The names of the dead were honored, but the focus was on the future they had died to protect. As the ceremony ended, a young human girl named Kim So-young approached, an elderly Centauri diplomat who had opposed the betrayal and saved human lives during the worst of the violence. "Thank you for protecting my family," she said simply. The old alien knelt down to her level, tears in his large eyes. "Thank you for forgiving us, little one." Above them, the TCS Soul maintained its patrol, a reminder that peace was protected by those strong enough to enforce it and just enough to deserve it. The ship's sensors watched the entire system, ready to respond to any threat, but also ready to help any being in need. Captain Park Woo-jin stood on his bridge, looking down at the peaceful world below. His ship had been built for war, but now it served as a guardian of peace. "Sir, we're receiving reports from across the galaxy," reported his communications officer. "All sectors report normal operations. No conflicts, no threats, no violations of the Accords." Park smiled. "That's how it should be. A galaxy where children can play safely and parents don't fear for their futures." The betrayal had been meant to destroy humanity. Instead, it had revealed humanity's true nature and given them the authority to reshape the galaxy according to their values. Justice instead of revenge, protection instead of conquest, cooperation instead of exploitation. The Coalition had feared what humans might become. Now the galaxy knew exactly what they had become: the guardians of peace, the defenders of justice, and the protectors of all who sought to live in harmony. The 12,000 ships had appeared to prove that Earth would never forgive betrayal. They had stayed to prove that Earth would always protect those who deserve protection. In the end, that made all the difference.